This story tells you the ending from the very beginning. And somehow that's exactly what makes it even more tragic. Because in Yin Yang Sundering, Caleb and the MC aren't trying to win. They're choosing each other, even when they know it will destroy everything. And the worst part? They would do it again. Once you start to see the mythology behind it, the Naihe Bridge, Nüwa and Fuxi, Sun and Moon, the twin lotuses, this stops being just a love story and becomes something much darker. I'm Princess Farron, and if you're ready to dive into what might be the darkest story Love and Deepspace has ever told, then let's travel through the Deep Space Tunnel. With this myth, we see a deepening of the themes first introduced in Caleb's Decoherence. He and the MC don't just share a bond, they come from the same source. Two halves of the same existence, split into opposing but complementary forces. Like quantum entanglements, their destinies are forever intertwined. And in both myths, when those two halves come together, something is destroyed, whether it's themselves or the world around them. In Yin Yang Sundering, they are the sibling lords of the Netherrealm, wardens of departed souls, scourges of man-eating ghosts. Two flowers growing from the same stem, embodiments of yin and yang energies, irresistibly drawn to each other no matter the cost. Because to them, nothing else matters. They are the one who protects the other, stays with the other, and would do anything for the other. The world itself reflects that divide, a realm of mortals with endless light, and the Netherrealm with eternal night. But it wasn't always like this. In the beginning, there was only one world, blue skies, green mountains, unity. A state similar to what Chinese cosmology calls Taiji, the source of the world, the supreme ultimate, the undivided origin of everything, before yin and yang were ever originated, separated. In Taoist cosmology, this is the primordial state before duality. Wuji, the boundless void, transforming into Taiji, the supreme ultimate. From there, yin and yang emerged, not as opposites in conflict, but as interdependent forces meant to dance in harmony. Two beings born from the same cosmic womb, embodying forces that must remain in balance, light and dark, warmth and cold, creation and stillness. In Taoist thought, yin and yang aren't enemies in conflict, but partners in perpetual exchange. When that exchange stops, when one clings too tightly to the other, the whole system falters. Caleb and the MC embodied that dance, until their refusal to stay apart throws the entire cosmos out of rhythm. Caleb stands as yang, light, heat, summer, just like the meaning of his name in Mandarin. Xia means summer, in Yuzhu, daytime. He's like the sun itself. While the MC embodies yin, darkness, cold, winter, like the moon. Together, they represent the energies that sustain the world, that perpetuate cycles of life in a cosmic sense. And this myth doesn't just tell a love story. It places them at the center of the cosmic canvas of creation. But something is already wrong. When the story begins, the MC has no memory of when she first came to Nether Falls, or how she became a Netherlord. Only one thing remains, her desire to stay by Caleb's side, and the hunger that never goes away. It craves souls, of ghosts, of humans, constantly. So Caleb creates a lotus pond using soul beads. feeding her through purified spirits to keep that hunger under control. And even here, there's a parallel. Soul beasts are born from the death of ghosts, like protocores are born from the death of planets and wanderers in the current timeline. But it isn't enough. Her hunger doesn't fade, it grows. And in contrast to that destruction, we are given one of the most beautiful images in the myth. Caleb and MC also transfer spiritual power while a twin lotus, or Bingdi Lian, blooms as the witness of their passionate, undying love. Two flowers, one stem, a symbol of perfect unity and inseparable love. In Chinese symbolism, the lotus is a symbol of summer and the fleeting nature of life. And because it emerges from mud, it also represents virtue and spiritual independence against adversity. It can also be seen as a representation of the past, present, and future if we consider its elements, the fruit, flower, and stalk. And of course, we can't forget about its meaning in Buddhism, as representing divine birth, enlightenment, awakening, transformation, and compassion. But the twin lotus goes further. Bingdi Lian is a rare natural phenomenon where two lotus flowers bloom from a single stem. It means a perfect couple and an inseparable union. According to an old legend, it's said to represent lovers whose relationship was forbidden, reincarnated just to find each other again. And at that point, it no longer feels symbolic. It feels literal, because that is exactly what Caleb and the MC experience in this myth. And yet, despite all that beauty, something is breaking beneath the surface. The MC's hunger, and the final words of a dying ghost.
Yin and yang and chaos, the gate standing between life and death. It's sealed. The two realms will crumble, and all souls shall be lost.
From that moment on, the tone of the story never really recovers, and not just because it revolves around themes prevalent in some Xianxia stories like ravenous ghosts, ghost cities, and crumbling magical arrays. Did you feel it too? There's a constant sense of unease, of something slowly falling apart. And as Caleb and the MC travel to Mount Dingxu, a place where yin and yang are meant to remain in perfect balance, that feeling only grows stronger. Because the closer they get, the more unstable everything becomes. And even the MC feels weird when she approaches it. And Caleb has been going there more often. Something is wrong. In a lighter moment, we're also introduced to the Nether Wardens 7-9, 2-9, and 5-5. Souls of children who died too early to withstand the process of reincarnation yet. So Caleb and the MC keep them there to deal with minor tasks while their souls are developed enough to once again reincarnate. And here's a small detail you might have missed. Even their numbers, their names, may carry meaning. 7 sounds like arise and life essence in Mandarin, but it can also be linked to the 7th month, considered a ghost month. 9 sounds like long-lasting, so put together, Warden 7-9 probably means a long-lasting soul or a long-lasting ghost. 2 represents harmony and balance. There's even a Chinese saying, good things come in pairs. So Warden 2-9 becomes something like long-lasting harmony. And 5, tied to the 5 elements, metal, wood, water, fire, earth, is also very close to 555, echoing woo woo woo, which is the sound of crying, making 5-5 feel like a crying soul. Small detail, but in a story about souls that can't move on, it fits almost too well. The situation in the mortal realm keeps getting worse. More humans are dying to ghosts. Desperate, they begin to pray to the Netherworld for help, even though the mortal realm isn't their responsibility. Caleb still intervenes, partly because the ghosts are a nuisance, but mostly to help the MC restore her strength. That's when the veils start to lift from the MC's eyes. During a soul-sending rite, an old spirit master approaches the MCs and says, "The wandering soul has returned." And really, who else could that be if not the MC? I want to talk a bit about this line because I honestly don't think it's only about this myth. It feels like something bigger, something tied to the MC's role across the entire story of Love and Deepspace. In my video about Astra, I talk a little bit about the Astra Planeta, the Wandering Planets. And as the narrative slowly reveals her, the MC, as a cosmic being, someone who moves across time, space, and even lifetimes, the idea of a wandering soul starts to feel almost literal, a truth the story has been hinting at all along. This old spirit master is actually an interesting character. He seems able to sense the MC and often tells her stories about the world and Caleb. Stories like that of a powerful spirit master who could commune with all spirits, someone who could divine fate, pacify calamities, and stand on equal ground with the gods. And he always had his sister by his side. The two of them, revered, watching over all in the mortal world together. I wonder who those two could be, right? But before the story can go further, it's interrupted. Humans begin to fight, first over silk charms, then over a plot of land. Corruption spreads, violence escalates everywhere. Caleb pulls the MC away before he can witness more viciousness, and he tells her something important. Once a ghost tastes human blood, its hunger spirals out of control. Exactly like hers. And this is where the myth does something very different, deliberate. It doesn't try to hide what's happening. From the very beginning, the story makes it clear that something is wrong with the MC. Her hunger, the imbalance between yin and yang, the warnings scattered throughout the story. All of it points to the same truth. He's already become something he shouldn't be. And that raises a question. Why would the writers reveal that so early? Because this story isn't a mystery. It's a tragedy. We're not supposed to sit here wondering what's happening. We're meant to understand it, and then watch it unfold anyway. Every choice they make carries weight because we, as the audience, already know where this is going. We know the world is out of balance. We know her hunger won't stop. We know this cannot end well. And still, they chose each other. Because their bond was never about balance, never about the world. It was always about each other. And by revealing the truth so early, the story shifts our focus away from surprise and toward inevitability. Every moment becomes heavier, almost suffocating, because we're not waiting for what will happen, but we're watching how far they're willing to go. And in a story built on yin and yang, on the necessity of balance, there might be the greatest imbalance of all. Not her hunger, but the fact that given the choice, they would still choose each other. And yet, they are not without compassion. Caleb sent the Netherwardens to plant lotus seeds across the mortal realm, creating barriers to protect humans from ghosts, making it easier to catch them. He promises a future where the world is restored, blue skies, green mountains, and a version of the MC that is no longer hungry.
When that day comes, you won't need soul beads anymore. Correct.
Remember that sense of inevitability we talked about earlier? It doesn't take long to return. Days later, the MC is starving again, as if a void is consuming her. In her desperation, she nearly devours Netherwarden 5-5. Caleb? He blames himself. He says he should have taken better care of her. The MC, terrified of what she's becoming, asks him something chilling. If she turns into a vicious ghost, would he kill her gently? Caleb shares more of his spiritual power with her after that and continues hunting soul beads to keep her stable. But the MC doesn't want to remain passive. Worried for her brother, the MC vows to find a way to cure her affliction, or at least control her hunger. To keep herself busy, she begins helping the Wardens, guiding souls through their final step before Reincarnation, giving them Oblivion Dewdrops before sending them across the bridge. And this is where the Yin Yang Sundering myth draws from one of its clearest mythological inspirations. The Dewdrops and the bridge itself are direct parallels to the legend of Meng Po and the Naihe Bridge. I had already talked a bit about it in my video about the Silas myth where silver rings rest, but here the reference is obvious. In Chinese mythology, every soul must cross that bridge before reincarnation. It's located in the underworld, Diyu, over the Nai River. By the bridge stands the goddess of forgetfulness or oblivion, Meng Po, who serves the Meng Po soup, a brew that erases all memories of past life to the deceased souls, so that when they are reborn, they begin again without grief or trauma, without attachment. In some stories, those who refuse to drink the soup may retain their memories, but such souls are often said to be plagued with misfortune and emotional suffering in their next lives. And I leave this detail here because, well, you'll understand when we reach the end. The Meng Po soup represents the final step in freeing souls from the wheel of samsara, allowing them to move forward on their spiritual journey. Because in this belief, holding on to the past only leads to suffering. And once you see that connection, the imagery in this myth becomes even more meaningful. The bridge, the river, the act of forgetting, it's not just world building, it's foreshadowing. Even earlier visuals, like those in the 3.0 music video for Cosmic Encounter, start to feel like fragments of the same cycle. MC standing on the bridge with the upside down image symbolizing the underworld, rowing through the river of oblivion with the moon phases in the sky, until she finally meets her beloved on the bridge with the glowing seed between them, meeting her beloved again and again, as if this has all happened before. On that very bridge, she encounters the souls of 3 brides, girls who were sacrificed to a ghost so the rest of their village could survive. And if that sounds familiar, it should. It echoes a common trope in stories like Heaven Official's Blessing, where desperate communities offer brides to powerful spirits in exchange for safety. Often, those spirits are driven by something deeply human: loneliness, heartbreak, a love they could never have in life. And before killing the brides, this particular ghost would take the form of someone they loved, which raises an unsettling possibility. Someone powerful enough to imitate the person you love most? Someone who needs pure souls. The story almost wants you to suspect Caleb. And with Caleb nowhere to be found, the MC decides to investigate. He takes the place of the next bride, hidden inside a sedan sent off as an offering. The boat drifts into a cavern, and suddenly she's pulled out, face to face with the one she loves, Caleb. The MC quickly assumes that's the ghost mimicking her Caleb. The illusion around them is beautiful. Bones become flowers, stone becomes a wedding hall. Silk banners, dragons, phoenixes, everything reshaped into symbols of love, happiness, and prosperity. The ghost is very gentle. He tells her,
Starting from this moment, we belong to each other forever.
And the MC believes none of it. Poor thing is convinced that this is just another imitation. Until he pushes her onto the bed, suppresses her spiritual power, and kisses her. And suddenly, It's just like the song goes. If you want to know if he loves you so, that's where it is. Oh yeah. The real ghost is still there, watching, waiting. But Caleb already has a plan. He knows that a ghost driven by longing won't be able to resist something more intense, something more real. So instead of hiding, they give it exactly what it wants to see. Surrounded by bones and illusions, they let themselves be consumed by passion. And for Caleb, he likes the change of place. It almost feels natural. A different place, the same choice. It works. The ghost reveals itself. The MC attacks immediately, but before it dies, the ghost says something that lingers. He is no different from it. He devours humans too. And Caleb was simply delivered to it after escaping Mount Dingxu. Caleb destroys it, but the damage is already done. When he asks the MC what he fears most, her answer is simple: being separate from you. And Caleb reassures her, if that's the case, then she has nothing to fear about who she is. But she does. Because something doesn't make sense. Mount Dingxu is supposed to maintain the balance between yin and yang. So how did a ghost escape from it? Caleb gives her an answer, but not the whole truth. The array is weakening, he says, and that's all. Once again, he chooses omission, believing it will protect her. Later, when she's alone, the MC notices a dragonfly. In Chinese symbolism, the dragonfly, Jing Jing, is tied to summer, transformation, and self-realization. A quiet reflection of both Caleb's nature and the MC's own journey. And just like before, its appearance isn't random. The Spirit Master Lady follows. This time she speaks more clearly. Yin and Yang are in disarray. The mortal realm is weakening. And unless someone is willing to bear the burden of balancing Yin and Yang, then the mortal realm won't be reborn. The MC turns the conversation back to the story he heard before, about the two siblings who once protected the world. Truth is darker than she expected. The brother died trying to save the mortal realm. And without him, everything collapsed. Calamity spread. Humans, driven by desperation and hunger, devour their own kind. And from that, the first ghosts were born. But the story doesn't end there. The Spirit Master speaks of a place called Hesperion Reach. A name that probably sounds familiar. Hesperia is the name given to the two most western peninsulas in Europe, the Italian and the Iberian Peninsula. And Hesperion, the name given to the planet Venus when it appeared in the west at night. And we have the Hesperides. Who were they? They were goddess nymphs of the evening and the golden light of sunsets, entrusted with the care of the tree of the golden apples. Remember the golden apples in Caleb's 5.0 artwork? Oh yeah, they were there. And it's here that the Spirit Master went to strike the drum of heavenly decrees, a relic tied to creation itself. According to the 16th century Chinese novel From Investiture of the Gods, the sacred drum was created by the goddess Nüwa. A drum is often associated with the power to connect realms, awaken the spirits of ancestors, facilitating a dialogue between the living and the dead, warding off evil spirits. And that connection leads back to one of the most important archetypes in this story, Nüwa and Fuxi, two sibling deities, creators of humanity. Pangu was said to be the creation god in Chinese mythology. He was a giant sleeping within an egg of chaos. As he awoke, he divided the sky and the earth. He died afterwards, his body turning into rivers, mountains, animals, and everything else in the world, including a powerful being known as Huaxu. Huaxu gave birth to twins, Wuji and Nüwa. Another curious detail is that Fuxi and Nüwa are said to have human faces and the bodies of snakes. Remember how the official art requested by Infold for Caleb featured a serpent? All the details were planned from the beginning. Eventually, Nüwa and Fuxi got married, with the blessing of heaven becoming the first husband and the first wife. Later, Taoist interpretations framed them as embodiments of yin-yang principles restoring order after chaos. They're two beings born from the same origin who ultimately became one. Just like Caleb and the MC, the parallels are almost impossible to ignore. Caleb and MC associated were the archetype of twins of cosmic creation, which is something I also talked about on my astrology video about Caleb. You can check it out if you're curious. According to legend, after striking the drum, the Spirit Master received the guidance of the heavens and was able to save the mortal realm. Humans worshipped him day and night, built temples in his honor, but even that story comes with a cost. When it ends, the Lady Spirit Master asks the MC a single question. What would you give up to save everything? And the MC doesn't hesitate. Caleb is her everything. The MC aims her sword at the woman's heart, but the illusion disappears. As Caleb and the MC return to Netherfalls, she brings up the name that's been lingering in her mind, Hesperion Reach. Caleb doesn't avoid the question this time. He tells her,
The Hesperion Reach is the source of the River of Oblivion, which runs through Netherfalls. It's to the far west, and it's the place where the sun sets. Similar to Mount Dingxu, yin and yang converge there. But now, it's a ghost town.
And Caleb has a reason to go there. He needs something that could keep Mount Dingxu's array stable for thousands of years more. So they make their way there together. And the moment they arrive, the atmosphere shifts. The ghosts notice Caleb immediately, drawn to him, watching him. It almost feels like stepping into a ghost city, something reminiscent of the ghost city run by Huachong and Heaven Official's blessing. But this place is different. These ghosts don't hunt humans. They feed on whatever animals wander in, trapped in a space they can never leave. Which is why the air is less foul than in other mortal regions. When Caleb and the MC finally seek out the Spirit Master from the story, the now familiar Dragonfly appears again, and with it, a vision of the past.
O sun and moon, be the mirrors that witness. Mountains and streams mark the river of time.
The Spirit Master chants solemnly to the beat of the drums and bells, his figure shining like the sun as humans gather around him in devotion, worshipping, believing. It feels less like a memory and more like a fragment of something sacred. Caleb pulls the MC out of the vision, and this time she asks the question more directly. Is he connected to that man? Caleb's answer is indirect, as always.
In the mortal realm, the more precious something is, the more likely it's buried with the person they deemed the most important.
It's not really an answer. Just another truth carefully chosen and everything else left unsaid. Because that's how Caleb always protects her. Not by lying, but by never telling the whole story. Several days pass and Caleb still hasn't found what he's looking for. And then Hesperion Reach comes alive. The ghosts begin to celebrate a festival, a divine ritual where they claim for fresh humans to devour. It's eerie, almost theatrical. A parade of spirits moving in unison, anticipation building with every step. As they watch, Caleb and the MC share a drink, a strong, smooth wine. He doesn't say where it came from, but that detail doesn't go unnoticed by the MC. And then, somehow, in the middle of all this, the tone shifts. Caleb leans in, kisses her, and casually tells her that she tastes good. Long enough for a nearby ghost to react.
Doing that when there are others around. How shameless. Is there even a sense of decency?
This is the first time I've seen a live. Never mind. You're a ghost, and you have the gall to lecture about the concept of decency?
I mean, it's such a brief moment, but it breaks the tension just enough. I found it really funny. As the parade intensifies, they learn there's something more at stake, a treasure hidden at the heart of the ritual. And without hesitation, they go for it. The confrontation is swift. The ghosts are no match for them. And what they retrieve is a mask made of bone, the same kind worn by the spirit master in the vision of the past. Something stirs in the MC. A memory almost within reach, but not quite. It slips away before she can grasp it. Caleb doesn't push her. They are two flowers from the same stem after all. He simply tells her to let it go, because in his eyes, what they have now is enough. When she wakes up, she's back in Nether Falls. No memory of how they returned. Just a gap in time and the quiet sense that something happened while she was asleep. Caleb explains it simply. They followed the river of Oblivion back, and he slept for nearly an entire day. And as for the reason they went there in the first place, he found it. Whatever that item is, he has it now. After sleeping and restoring her spiritual power, the MC finally feels stable again. But her memories are still gone, and whatever's happening to the world, it hasn't stopped. While she's speaking with the Nether Wardens, a sudden noise cuts through the air. The Nether Bridge, the passage every soul must cross to reincarnate, has collapsed. Again, too many souls have been passing through, too many deaths. And it's not the first time it's happened. But this time it's worse because it all escalated right after she left Nether Falls. When she questions the souls, the answer becomes clear. Most of them died in calamities. And if you think about it, doesn't that sound familiar? Isn't what's happening in this alternate universe similar to what is taking place in the current timeline, with the emergence of more anomalies and wanderers in Lincoln City? Signs that something much bigger is approaching, something like the Great Eradication. It's almost as if the timelines are reflecting each other. Just as she decides to investigate further, Caleb returns. He doesn't start with explanation, he simply points to the sky. The mist is gone. The sky is clearer than it's been in a long time. Mount Dingxu's array has apparently been restored. But something is wrong. The MC notices immediately. Caleb feels cold. Physically cold. Worried, she confronts him. Why didn't he take her with him to help? But Caleb brushes it aside. He tells her he needs her for something more important. And then, unexpectedly, he asks her to sing. He reveals that she used to sing many songs that people would stop just to listen, but she only ever sang for him. When she asks him to sing, he doesn't. He utters some of its words.
When the heavens were created, its voice tolled like a bell cultivated. When the mortal realm was created, its breath was like the wind calculated. When mountains were created, they were green and stretched endlessly like wealth accumulated. Wandering souls returned to the hills of their home with no concerns.
It doesn't sound like just a song. As soon as I read this, I just got reminded of the very cycle of creation and reincarnation. Because it sounds like something ancient, something tied to the very cycle of life and death. So I believe these lyrics may be implying that the MC was in fact one of the deities responsible for that very same cycle. Later, when Caleb falls asleep, MC notices a single petal caught in his hair, infused with ghost energy. There's only one place it could have come from, Hesperion Reach, Caleb didn't just go to Mount Dingxu. He went back to Hesperion, alone. With Mount Dingxu's seals restored, the flow of souls through Netherfalls finally begins to slow. For the first time in a while, things feel stable. And that's exactly why the MC chooses to act. He returns to the mortal realm, searching for Hesperion Reach. But it's gone. Not hidden, not sealed, completely gone, as if it had never existed at all. And that's when everything starts to connect. Her missing memories, Caleb's half-truth, the Spirit Master story, the changes in Mount Dingxu. He pushes him with patience. Over a quiet game of Jiangqi, or Chinese chess, he corners him with the truth he's been avoiding. And this time Caleb gives in. He draws his weapon Nether Seal and cuts open a rift to the truth, deep beneath Mount Dingxu, where yin energy gathers in its purest form. What she finds there isn't balance, it's imprisonment. The cave is filled with cells, countless ghosts trapped inside them. Some ghosts burn in blue flames. Others are torn apart again and again by other ghosts. And every time they fall, the yin energy revives them over and over and over again. Not death, not life, just endless suffering, which I find very similar to Dante's Inferno, the ninth circle, the ice layer where traitors are punished forevermore. This is a purgatory of Caleb's own making. Caleb's excuse: yin is devouring yang energy, and if those energies become unbalanced, the world itself will become a domain for ghosts. So he made a choice, a necessary one. Caleb admits this is his fault, that long ago he left the MC behind, and that decision is what led to her suffering and the loss of her memories. But even now, he's still not telling her everything, because that's who he is. He protects her the only way he knows how, by carrying the burden alone. He swears she'll never feel hatred, pain, or despair again, even if it means becoming the one who bears it all. And just like in the Spirit Master story, he tells her what came before. Calamities that befell the world, the collapse of humanity, how humans fall into despair ate each other, the birth of ghosts and corruption. Tell me something. Isn't this what is happening in the present timeline with ever-creating Alterium out of humans? With the world slowly losing its ethical boundaries? Which leads to a question Caleb himself asks.
Who was the real monster? Those ghosts or humans?
The answer isn't simple, and it makes you think. And maybe that's the point. The more the MC sees, the more everything starts to align. The Spirit Master, his sister, Caleb, herself. The connection is right there, just within reach, until a sharp sudden headache cuts through her thoughts. Like something is stopping her from remembering. Once again, she seems to have a mysterious restriction on her. Caleb finally admits the truth he can't hide anymore. He sealed Hesperion Reach and all its ghosts under Mount Dingxu. But even that isn't enough. The yin energy keeps growing, so he'll need to find more stronger ghosts. And this time he tells MC to stay behind in Netherfalls in case something happens. But, you know MC, he refuses. For once, she wants to be the one who carries the burden. And Caleb finally relents. But neither of them realizes that this is the moment everything changes. Because this would be the last time she would see him before everything was taken away. On her hunt for stronger ghosts, the MC only finds weaklings. And then something breaks inside her. The barrier holding her memories in place shatters. And with it, her connection to Caleb. When she tries to summon his artifact, it disappears. Panic sets in. She makes her way back to Nether Falls as fast as she can, and the past memories come rushing in. She remembers the truth. The bone mask Caleb carved for her. The calamity. The prophecy. The moment the drum of heavenly decrees chose her as the one who had to be sacrificed to save the world. And Caleb refused. How Caleb professed they and his sister would leave. He refused fate, refused the heavens, refused to let her life be sacrificed to lose her. Even as the world collapsed and the monsters descended, even as humanity begged for salvation, he chose her. The end came on a moonless night. Caleb struck the drums of heavenly decrees again and again and again, for 10 days and 10 nights, calling every ghost to him, until the sound stopped. And that's when the MC made her choice. If only the ghosts could cross into the depths of Hesperion Reach, then she would become one too. She devoured the wicked, the corrupted, until she turned into one of them. A ghost, all to find him. A little side note, do you remember how the MC is afraid of thunder? And that was only mentioned when she was with Caleb and not with any of the other allies? Maybe it's because of the trauma-inducing experience of losing Caleb after he kept striking the drums for 10 days until silence came and she thought she lost him. What do you think?
Let me
This
protect
be the
you.
reason? When Caleb finally finds her, she doesn't recognize him. He attacks him, and he doesn't fight back. Even as she tries to tear him apart, he holds her without ever letting go, promising to never leave her again. And for centuries, he keeps that promise, trying to make the MC stop eating ghosts, teaching her again his name, herself, what it means to be human. Slowly, painfully, he brings her back. And honestly, can you imagine that? Loving someone for centuries while they look at you like a stranger, and still never giving up. When the MC returns to Nether Falls, the Lady Spirit Master appears again and lets the MC know Caleb protected her from the calamity, but couldn't come back. The lady says she'll help MC find him in exchange for a favor. She explained that in the beginning, only the mortal realm existed. The world was never meant to become this. The MC was supposed to be the one to separate yin and yang, to become the embodiment of Netherrealm itself. But Caleb took that fate from her, killed all the ghosts instead, and forced the world into imbalance. He created the Netherrealm by himself, over centuries. And because of that, the calamities never stopped. So now, there's only one way to fix it. They have to separate the nether and the mortal realms. And to do that, they have to separate from each other. And this revelation makes me wonder, does this mean that in the current timeline, the MC is also the embodiment of the underworld? Will she have to be the one responsible for a realm or a protofield where the wanderers will eventually be sent off to? He does move around the N109 zone like he owns it, and we know that represents the underworld, so let's see what the next story updates in Love and Deepspace reveal. But to bring Caleb back, the MC traverses every corner of the Netherrealm and does what he once did for her. He gathers the fragments of his soul and settles them beneath the lotus pond to await the day of his awakening. He waits. Centuries pass, until one day he wakes up, but he doesn't remember her. So this time, she's the one who stays, the one who teaches, the one who waits, the one who loves alone. Through the next 100 years, he reforges his artifact and regains his strengths, as the MC shares with him stories of their past, including the jar of wine. Remember? The one they drank in Hesperion Reach and that the MC later realized was the one he had brewed long ago and that was supposed to be for their wedding. And Caleb? He remembers it. When the dreaded moment finally comes, MC keeps her promise. MC reveals the vow she made to the Lady Spirit Master. He knows that is the only way for Caleb to live and not suffer more, even if it means she won't be by his side. But Caleb doubts he can truly live without her. He doesn't feel like he'll be her brother any longer. MC replies that he'll always be her brother, and that will never change. You'll know whether Caleb's well or not when the souls arrive in the Netherrealm, and every soul that reincarnates will carry her yearning for him. This part here just killed me. And reading this while Caleb's theme is playing is utterly devastating. They stand together one last time. Caleb requests the MC one last wish, that he won't bear alone the burden of their memories. So they interlink their arms while holding cups and sip the dewdrops of Oblivion, just like the ritual of traditional Chinese weddings, Jiao Biju, symbolizing in each other's hearts. A vow not to remember. And so the Netherlords part. Caleb walks toward the light. He walks into the darkness of the Netherrealm. This image really made me think of the Japanese myth of the sun and the moon. Its legend says that the sun and moon used to love each other, but because of their differences, they never met. So God created the eclipse so that they could meet. And since in this myth Caleb represents the sun and the warmth of yang energy, and the MC the moon and cold of yin energy, I believe this myth portrays what they're going through. And just like that, they're separated. But even without memories, something remains. MC keeps going to the Nether Bridge to hear the souls talk about the mortal realm, and she still calls his name in her sleep. Caleb fills his temple with portraits of the MC, and when rain from the mortal realm reaches Nether Falls, it feels like longing, crossing worlds. This raises a question: if they truly forgot everything, why do they still act like they remember each other? How is that even possible after drinking the Dewdrops of Oblivion? I don't think they ever truly forgot, because this isn't the first time we've seen something like this. In the main timeline, Caleb finds a way to hide his memories of her in a sealed corner of his mind, almost like a black hole beyond the reach of Ever's technology. So maybe forgetting isn't absolute. My interpretation is that these different timelines, these parallel versions of the story, don't exist in isolation. They echo each other. They influence each other. What happens in one leaves a trace in another. And that brings us to another detail. If you remember Caleb's Memoria card, Floating Floral Letter, we see them together on a boat, drifting along a river. It could very well be one of the rivers that eventually connects to the River of Oblivion in the Netherrealm. And right before he kisses her, he says,
Returning to this world with you by my side. Is the greatest miracle that fate has given me.
That line doesn't feel casual. It feels like a memory or something close to one. A fragment, an echo, something beyond logic, something that refuses to disappear. And maybe that's the answer. Maybe no matter the timeline, no matter the world, some connections simply can't be erased. This was a painful, dark journey. Ghost Final March Yin Yang Sundering is overflowing with symbolism, but at its core, it tells a very familiar story. One we already knew the ending to, because from the very beginning, this was never about winning or saving the world. It was about two people choosing each other, even when they knew the cost, even when that choice would break the balance of everything. Just like in the Dickeran's myth, Caleb and the MC are two halves of the same whole, forces that were never meant to stay together, yet they always try. They defy fate, they defy the world, they defy even the roles they were created to fulfill. And every time it ends the same way: separation, sacrifice, and the love that refuses to disappear. So this story was never meant to be a mystery to unfold, but a tragedy to behold, precisely because we knew what was going to happen. because this was a story that told us the ending from the very beginning. Still, we'd watch it anyway. This myth is incredibly rich, and I genuinely love to hear your theories. What do you think all of this means? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I cover Love and Deepspace lore, diving into symbolism, mythology, and esoteric archetypes behind the story and its characters. So if that's your kind of thing, feel free to check out my other videos and playlists. This is Princess Farron signing out. Take care and good gaming. Bye!